This episode was originally going to be part of my analysis of Lost Season 3 Episode 5, The Cost of Living, but since it didn't really fit thematically, and it's been 2 months since my last Lost video, I decided to do an early release. This is kinda like a small preview of the Lost Journeys, exploring why Adewale left the show. We can talk about why Mr. Echo was killed by the monster, but we're stepping out of the diegesis, the story world of Lost, to explore why the actor left. Mr. Echo was written in such a profound way in Season 2. Then we get to Season 3, and very abruptly, Mr. Echo is killed off. He's barely in the Season 2, a couple of scenes at the end of Episode 3, and then his final death episode, so he did get an episode dedicated to him in the end. And I thought they did a marvelous job summarizing his character, but now we had no main characters left from the tale section. The guest and recurring cast are the only ones left. The dead characters often appeared in visions and dreams afterwards, but Echo did not. When they negotiated with Michelle Rodriguez in 2005 for her upcoming leader role in Season 2, she only wanted to do 1 season. Something that wasn't in the showrunners' minds, but they agreed to do it. So it's even weirder that both the most prominent leaders of the tale section only stayed for about a year. When you listen to the audio podcast that was released right after the death episode, but recorded before it was aired, the showrunners kind of cover up a lot of the inner turmoil.
You know, we actually killed Mr. Echo because we had made a deal with Adewale, the actor, that we would only have him on the show for somewhere around a year. And when we went into this and when we hired him on the show, we all sat down and he wanted to come do Lost, but he didn't want to commit to be on the show for a long term. So we always knew that he would have a short, really great, but arc, but one that would come to an end sooner probably than people wanted it to.
That story, if it's sounding familiar to the Ana Lucia story that we told last year, that's because in fact it is the same story. And obviously we cast Michelle Rodriguez well before Adewale because she actually appeared in the finale of Season 1. But when Adewale came on for Season 2, we expressed concern in only having a year-long arc because we already had a deal in place for Michelle Rodriguez to do the same, and basically asked him, it would be great if we could not kill you in Season 2, but roll you into Season 3.
Yeah, we felt like it would be too much tonnage to have those two deaths come so close together.
The show was still on, so it wasn't until later we started to understand the inner workings. It's after all easier to come clean about something on a project after you've done with it and you're no longer on contract. So let's rewind the clock for a little bit and explore the issue. It's spring of 2005. They were winding down Season 1 and looking ahead at Season 2. They knew they were going to introduce the tale section survivors. Lost had already cast Michelle Rodriguez in spring of 2005, a well-known star from the Fast and Furious franchise who appeared in the Season 1 finale. But over the summer they were looking for an African character. The showrunners wanted Lance Reddick for the role of Echo, which at the time had a different name, Emeka. However, he couldn't do it since he was on the wire. So they circulated towards Adewale Akinnuoye Agbaje, who was pretty known for his amazing performance in another HBO show, Oz.
How is Junior Number doing?
I know who he is, but we have never danced together.
Marcus, sorry.
Again, I know of him.
William Pouches.
On August 5th of 2005, Adewale was confirmed as joining the cast to play a character named Emeka. A little bit later, Adewale suggested a name change, from Emeka to Echo.
The name that we initially came up with was Emeka, and I changed the name to Echo because it was Yoruba, which is the tribe that I come from, and added the Mr.
After the fall of 2005 and the spring of 2006, rumors started circulating Adewale and discomfort on the show. As always, rumors have to be taken with a grain of salt. Showrunner Damon Lindelof noted that Echo's death stemmed from actor Adewale himself, who did not like living in Hawaii. Lindelof said, "Our Mr. Echo plans very quickly derailed." Adewale's unhappiness was almost instantaneous. On his second episode, he was expressing extreme dissatisfaction. So, at some point during Season 2, Adewale and the showrunners settled on 1 season, even if that would shatter their writers' plans. In 2011, Damon confirmed that this happened in January of 2006. The showrunners were in Los Angeles, but he was in Hawaii. So what was going on set in Hawaii? When asked about the rumors of him being a bit of trouble, Adewale himself described how he acted on set. In a New York Times interview in 2006, he told the newspaper that his acting methods were misinterpreted because of his method acting. He didn't talk to anyone while he was on set and stayed in character as Echo, even off camera, until the end of the day. The only way I know how to deliver on set is to focus. Some people can turn it on or off. I'd rather stay in character. There was no socializing. I would start 2 hours before I went to the set, and I wouldn't say any other words other than the ones that I needed to say. That's just the way I work. And I think that intensity comes across in my characters. He says that during his downtime, he would sit quietly by himself and read from his book of Buddhist scriptures. In my opinion, that is one way to distance yourself from your coworkers. And if you look at any of the behind the scenes footage, the Hawaiian spirit was very much there among the cast members.
You're cheating hard. We'll tell on you.
Discussions around method acting is far too big of a theme to deal with on this video, but he has been described as a method actor in other projects as well.
Came across this real live Japanese cannibal, alive today, by the name of Issei Sagawa. And I would listen to his confessionals every day while they were applying my prosthetic. It was like 5 hours, and to the headache of my prosthetic team, because I think they kind of went mad and had to have therapy after that.
Rumors started brewing around in Hawaii. Rumors that got to Michael Osiello, an American journalist in TV Guide, who together with Kristin from E! Online and Jeff Jensen from Entertainment Weekly were the most frequent sources in terms of spoilers and rumors about the show. By the time they got to his first flashback episode, the 23rd Psalm, which was shot in the fall of 2005, he told Entertainment Weekly in the following year that he felt his character was finished. The writers had many different ideas for future storylines. Heck, even in the audio commentary for the 23rd Psalm, Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse mentioned this.
Now you can see inside the cloud, those flashes are actually all images, and it's sort of one of those things. Again, it's like it's an Easter egg for the fans who are really diehards about the show. You can go back, you can freeze that on your TiVo, and you can look at that frame by frame, and you'll see all sorts of images from Echo's past. And what we wanted to do was not just include images from what you'd seen on the series, but also some images from his life that you had not yet seen on the series, just to sort of tantalize the audience a little bit about what some other Echo stories might be. So there's a picture of a young woman with a headdress.
There's a couple, an older couple.
Yeah, a Nigerian
These are all
couple.
ideas that we have for the future, and hopefully people will be able to go back and look at this episode and go, oh wow,
we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
To make matters worse for Adewale, his foster parents died in 2006. They were the ones who raised me for good and bad. He stayed close to them right up until their deaths. In another interview, he mentioned this. They died 2 days apart, and that was my real understanding of what true love is. My father was stricken with lung cancer and given a short time to live. My mother was tending to him, and the fear of losing him gave her a heart attack. She actually died before him. They were never actually married, just betrothed to one another. They never had any biological children. According to Elizabeth Mitchell, he wanted to go back to London after losing his parents and start directing a movie about his own life. The Seattle Post-Intelligencer also said on November 7, 2006, that he wanted to return to London to work on a movie. However, this seemed like an idea he had brewed on for many years. News started popping up about it in 2012, but the film, called Farming, came out in 2018, 12 years after he left Lost. We were approaching the end of season 2, and he was hell-bent on leaving. They couldn't kill him off in the season 2 finale, so he agreed on being on the show in early season 3. For the season 2 finale, he came to set with cornrows. The dismay can be heard in producer Jean Higgins in the interview she did with the Hash podcast regarding that.
Shooting elements.
Shooting like knives flying through the hedge and
Knives
stuff?
flying through the air, debris flying through the air. Had to go back and do some reshoots with Terry, had to do some reshoots with Mr. Echo, who really wanted to go home, and showed up with his hair in cornrows, and I'm going, You're not getting on a plane today. You have not been released, and sorry about the cornrows, but go back to makeup and hair because they got to come out.
I guess it's pretty well known at this point that he wanted to be off the show shortly thereafter that, because he asked them to kill his character off a couple episodes into the next season, as I recall.
Yes.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yes. And we were happy to do so.
Additionally, the cast had to promote videos for the Russian TV channel that aired Lost. Lots of money came off that, since they got all the cast members to do it speaking Russian.
Это стоит увидеть. Остаться в живых. Новые серии. Скоро.
Adewale is the only character that showed up without a trip to makeup and costume. He's the only one in his regular clothing. We are now in the fall of 2006. Season 3 is about to start. Adewale was still in Hawaii. He came to sunset on the beach on September the 30th, but he was already in Hawaii at the time. 4 days prior, he needed to be on the district court after a traffic violation arrest. After completing the cost of living, he likely went straight to London. He never returned to Lost. The audience didn't know much about what happened backstage. We did get a scoop on October the 25th that a major death was occurring in episode 5, November 1st, the day the cost of living aired. Osiello confirmed in the morning of when the episode was supposed to air that it was a death, but it was not a female and not another. People started to put 2 and 2 together. You also had the promo, the name of the episode, and it being Echo-centric. Echo was going to bite the dust. This was still quite shocking. 2 days later, Adewale was interviewed by Entertainment Weekly. By now, he had already left Hawaii. He said that it was a joyous moment to leave the show and bragged that he now had a more heightened profile in the industry after starring in a hit TV show. We still had the rumors, those that Osiello from TV Guide and Kristin from E! talked about. 1 week after his death episode, we had this scoop from Kristin. From Jason, why was Adewale Akinwumi Agbaje written off Lost? Was he as unruly as the rumors are saying? I don't wanna believe it. And as the creator of the moniker Sex AAA, you know I don't wanna either. But it's now been confirmed to me by various sources that Adewale had some interpersonal issues on the set. As well as a fellow E! Online reporter, Josh Grossberg, ran into Lost executive producer Brian Burke this morning and asked whether Echo's departure was something planned. Burke replied, story-wise, it was definitely the direction we're going. I don't know what our official answer is on all that. Burke later added that Adewale asked to leave the show and that it was for personal reasons that we can't talk about. In a Honolulu Advertiser interview with Yoonjin Kim on December 4th, she said that they knew for a while that Adewale was getting written off, so they were more mentally prepared for his death than with others. As illustrated, there were talks between the writers and him about it during the 2nd season. Mr. Echo was planned to have a larger part of the mythology of the show. In the IGN interview in 2008, the showrunners confirmed that Adewale's decision led them quickly changing Mr. Echo's storyline to one that would only last 1 season. Asked what might have happened with Echo had he been the long-term character he was going to be, Lindelof answered, originally he was going to be someone who challenged Locke for the spiritual leadership of the castaways. The years went by. In August 15th of 2009, he expressed wishes to come back. He said, Adewale is open for business. We have had talks about some things they might do for the final season, and there are other dead folks coming back allegedly, but at the moment it is still a maybe, a strong maybe, but I have not shot anything yet or signed any contracts, but I'm hoping. This was when they were working on the final season, and as we saw, season 6 featured a bunch of guest appearances by people that had died during the 6 seasons of the show. In May of 2010, Kristin from E! reported that unnamed ABC and Lost insiders said that Adewale was offered a spot in the finale, but he turned it down because it wasn't enough money, and that he had asked for 5 times as much as what was offered. Kristin from E! has been reporting on Lost for several years, but we still need to take everything that comes from insiders as rumors, and therefore with a grain of salt. We never saw the conversation between ABC and Adewale didn't comment on his finale spot either, so who knows. The show ended on May 23rd of 2010. After that we got an interview with Gene Higgins that the Amazing the Hatch podcast did. Damon Lindelof opened up a little bit about it too, In a 2015 interview Lindelof did with The Hollywood Reporter, he said this: "I don't want to get anecdotal about it. For me there is a line that is crossed, and that line is about respecting your collaborators. And we all know what the difference is between a temper tantrum and creating an unsafe work environment, either physically or emotionally. And if you cross that line, that's it, you're done, and I will not work with you anymore." So there was a situation with an actor, for example, who wanted to not be involved in the project anymore. And it was like, no, you're contractually bound to the project, and we'll figure out a way to write you out at some point. But in the meantime, we're going to ask you to fulfill what you've signed up for, because we're already in the process. You know, we've always shot stuff. And they then said, "Oh, I know how to get myself fired. I will behave badly by mistreating members of the crew." And that was that. It seems like he's hinting that this is Adewale. It was still prevalent that things weren't exactly peaceful between him and the rest when the show was on. As I illustrated earlier with the talks, his behavior on set and in the interview with Gene Higgins, it all points to him being the root cause. 1 year after the show ended, in 2011, Damon Lindelof said this on a panel called Relevant Storytelling, which will be my closing point of this analysis.
Mr. Echo was another case of this, where it's essentially we had this character on the show, Mr. Echo, who was an amazing character. The writers spent a tremendous amount of time kind of figuring out exactly how we were going to introduce him into the show and how he would have a multi-seasonal arc and different relationships with different characters. And in the second season, we started setting all this stuff up. And, you know, in around January, Adewale, Akinaya Abaje, who played Mr. Echo, called us and said, "I don't want to be on the show anymore. I just hate Hawaii. I want to go back to London." And we were like, "Dude, we have this huge plan for you, and you have a contract." And he's like, "I don't care. Sue me. I'm leaving. No offense, I just can't be here anymore." And we said, "Just please do us this one favor. We can't kill you in the finale. The finale of season 2 is already sort of planned out. Will you just come back and do a couple episodes in season 3, and then we'll find a way to get you off the show?" And he was like, "Yeah, fine, I'll do that." And now suddenly this huge time bomb went off in the middle of all of our best laid plans, because we had this whole thing between he and Locke, we had this whole thing with he and Charlie, and so, and essentially we're like, what are we going to do with Charlie in the 3rd season? You know, Mr. Echo was such a huge part of this. Oh man, what if, well, let's hook him up with Desmond. That guy's really good. Let's make Desmond a series regular. He came back in the season 2 finale. Let's have him stick around and have him basically do all that stuff that Echo was going to do. And what Desmond's sort of psychic visions of the future that started setting up the time travel that we would do on the show were sort of more spiritually articulated with Mr. Echo, but it actually ended up serving a better function. But it was a huge quantum change in the plan of the show that was kind of forced upon us as a result of an actor's decision. So we wanted to tell the audience, hey, we didn't want to kill Mr. Echo. This is what happened, guys. Because you're probably sensing that Mr. Echo's death felt abrupt. We were setting him up for a much bigger piece of the pie than we actually served you. So here's what happened, and we're going to be honest about it.
So I hope you have a bigger picture of what transpired. It involved Adewale on set, grey-laid plans, the very unfortunate deaths of his foster parents, and much more. Thank you very much for watching, and to the user QPunk for providing a lot of the sources. I am still working on Lost Journeys Season 3. Here's a little snippet of how things are done. I don't know when I'll start releasing them, maybe in late July. Still not certain how quickly I'll get to them. They take a while, and I want to be done with half the season before I start releasing them. Thank you for your patience.